I would like to be active. I say
I wish
that.
I was more active.
I wish I was more active. I guess what I mean though is I wish that I had the benefit of having been more active. You know, like I want to just play a video game, but I would like to be healthy and feel good too.
Yeah, it's all a balance, I think, because I think you could achieve both. Like I'm very active as trying to, go on walks every day just to get your body moving. Like that's the best thing you could do from like a health perspective is just to be moving. And because we have, very sedentary, hobbies, we have to find some sort of balance.
Yeah. Branden, I think we should become pickle boys.
Oh, I would love to be a pickle boy.
We could just,
You guys should do it.
We should
just
a couple lads playing pickleball.
Oh, I would love to play pickleball.
In the shortest of shorts.
Oh, they're gonna just be the case of the vanishing shorts. They're gonna be so
God,
short.
Yes.
I can't
That's how you
wait.
work on your tan, right?
Exactly.
Hike them up a little bit every time.
There's nothing more to pull up.
It's literally inside me.
Then you just go to the beach, and then there's some swimwear you can wear.
There's that whole genre of swimwear is not no good. No, thank you. Hey everybody. Welcome to the JRPG Pursuit podcast, the only podcast that we are all on that we talk about JRPGs, okay?
That airs every week.
That airs weekly, okay? So I know we're really narrowing it down. There are not many podcasts that fit those criteria, but we are the only one.
It's a niche, that's for sure.
And we've carved out this niche for ourselves and only ourselves, I guess. So I want to welcome you to the program, and I want to just keep up this weird energy that I have for some reason. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Branden.
My name is Abdallah.
And I'm Emily.
And we are thrilled as all heck to be here with you. Recording on this. We had to call a little bit of an audible, so we're recording at a different time than normal. Everything feels topsy-turvy, like dogs are friends with cats. I blame Abdallah exclusively for
we all blame
for the change, yes.
I will take the blame.
Yeah. No, it's all good, actually. Like, this just
I think this is a benefit.
Yeah. I think this is going to...
weird, I think it's fun.
It's going to work out.
And we're doing it early enough that we're not, like... makes it a little bit weird. Yeah, we're not super tired yet.
I haven't got to start, hitting the sauce, like I do as a
and Branden
as a deeply unhappy person. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy.
He's secretly
deeply unhappy, if you couldn't tell. No, I'm good. So I think we wanted to begin, as we often do, with some pickups, because I think we all have a little something at least that we've acquired in recent weeks, and I think Emily should go first.
All right.
That's a good plan.
So there have been a lot of pre-Black Friday sales. I don't know. I feel like every year they come out earlier and earlier. And I never know, like, when to hold or when to pull the trigger on something. So far in my kind of early pulling the trigger, I picked up a beautiful art book that I've been just waiting to get discounted. And that is one of the Legend of Heroes Trails photo books.
Yeah.
Art books. And this thing's lovely. I knew it would be good because I own quite a few of the Trails art books from the various games. I didn't have any from the Sky games, or they also include some Crossbell in here as well. But you have like full photos.
Wow.
It's
there's
lovely.
no border, there's no white space. It's like beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And this is also one of the ones that came in English because
I
think only two of them had come in English. So I really wanted to get this copy.
I think that's the second volume. There's the volume with Estelle on the cover. And if you put the two covers together, they form one solid picture, which is very cool. Yeah,
I think it's so cool. I need to get the other one. This one was discounted. I think they go for like $50 usually on Amazon, but this was $35. So that's an acceptable price. I want to grab this before they kind of start disappearing because this is all the old art from the early games. And so when we get into the remakes, I feel like they're not going to reprint this and try to push the new art books.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll buy them. I will still buy them.
I will buy them all.
Yeah,
but that's that's an admission that could cost me. But that book is great. I have that book as well, and I took some screen grabs, some photos of the pictures in there to use in a video or two. Like it's just really cool art.
Idea,
Yeah,
really,
there's.
really cool.
like I've seen a lot of art from this era, but there's a few in there I never saw before or seen before.
Yeah, me too.
So that was quite the treat.
Yeah.
Ooh, I might
There's
pick
just
that
so
up,
much
actually.
lovely art. You should do it.
Yeah,
it's
you
on
should. If you
sale,
don't have those
might as
Trails
well.
book, you should get them for sure.
Well,
Like,
I know what I'm doing after
Even if
this.
the English versions come out, like there's not a lot of text in here. The only part that's like in English is they just tell you like where the art's from,
yeah.
like what game or like what sort of promotion they were doing or something like that. But you could also just find them in Japanese pretty easily on the Japanese sites.
Yeah.
And I think
So
they
there's always that option.
it was old enough that like they hadn't obviously the Crossbell games hadn't come out over here, and I think they refer to Trails to Azure as like Trails of Blue or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, that's
it's
funny.
Yeah, it's a little
charmingly
bit funny to see
charmingly
that.
quaint to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have it. I don't know if I should wait for the first book to get discounted or just get it because it's buying this one just made me so excited.
Is it not also on sale? That's surprising. feel like
I
it should
didn't
also
see it
be.
on sale last I looked, but it might be on sale.
Maybe
sometime
next
this
week or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would-
I
I
just
would-
have it in my cart right now. I have a few things in my cart. I'm just waiting for it prices to go down before I buy them.
Of course.
It's a
Excellent.
waiting game.
Oh yeah.
And even if I like miss, that window of getting them, I don't think they'll be unobtainable. Like I think we've talked about in a few of our shows before.
I mean, yeah, exactly. There's ways
But
to
half
get
the
it.
fun is like the treasure hunt, getting something at a good price.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, that's the fun. Speaking of treasure hunting, though.
Yes, Abdallah, hit us.
Yeah. So Branden and I went on a little adventure, I think, was
A
it?
little excursion.
Excursion. We went to I don't know
Jealous.
how many shops we went to. I don't know. It was like 7.
When we get you out here one of these days, we'll take you to all the stops. Don't
Yeah.
worry, Emily.
You'll have to.
There's
I'll hold
a
you guys to
lot
it.
of stops.
Yeah, Branden has a whole system.
We went out all the way out east and then made our way back, zigzagging across the map to hit all the
Exactly.
stores. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
there's nothing on my side except for a couple of stores that do have some games like half price books and a disc replay, but
Yeah.
Branden just I don't know, there's a lot going on near him.
They're getting up in your area.
I know, it is popular there. But while we were out, we got quite a handful of games, but I'll highlight at least one of them that I got, and that was Evolution for the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I remember I have a nostalgic memory because I never growing up I didn't have a Dreamcast. My friend did, so I didn't get a Dreamcast until they were discounted to $50. Back when they were trying to liquidate all of them.
That's when my brother bought his too. He got his for $50 way back.
Exactly. And so by the time, I don't know, I grabbed a couple of things, but I never got this game for some reason. But it was one of those games I used to go over to his house and play all the time. And so I was it's always been on my list of if I see it, I'll grab it. And it's one of those things if I see it in person, I'll definitely grab it.
Yeah.
So I ended up grabbing this one, and I think the most frustration I've had cleaning a game ever. It had
Really?
4 different stickers on it, and they were the kind of stickers that just
The gunky ones.
just do not come off. My
You went
fingers.
Gugon?
I
Gugon's
used
business.
Gugon. I used 99% isotropic alcohol to get rid of it, some of it, and it took me 2 hours to take it all off.
Wow.
I was just sitting there. It was exhausting, and so I think there's a special place in hell for people who put stickers like that on games.
At least it wasn't on any paper, right?
I was gonna say, especially when they do it on cardboard.
Especially
because,
on cardboard. There's a couple of games that I've had before that had it on they would put it inside the PS2 game. They would go inside onto the artwork and put those stickers on, and I'd be like, what?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's not okay.
What kind of deranged, crazy person does that?
Monsters,
literal
do that.
monsters out there. But so
I'm
yeah,
so angry even thinking about it.
I know. I was literally losing my mind trying to take it off. So yeah, that was terrible, but I love. I'm excited to play this game. I think I might make it as one of my 2025 games.
Nice.
To play. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes though. There's too much coming out.
If and when you decide to do it, let me know, and maybe we can play through it at the same time because I
Ooh.
also have it.
Yeah.
But I don't actually. I need to get a cable to be able to even plug my Dreamcast in. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yes.
But yeah, I do have Evolution 1 and 2 for the Dreamcast. I think they did a compilation of both games on the GameCube as well. Like
yes, there is a GameCube version. The one
Evolution Worlds, I think.
Yeah, Evolution Worlds. The one thing about that one is that I've heard is the audio mix is like subpar.
Oh, well, I know a thing or two about that. Let me tell you. This podcast the past 2 weeks, for crying out loud. If everything has gone well, by the way, you all are listening to this and you're thinking, wow, what a change a couple of weeks can make. This sounds so great. And you're cheering. Maybe you're in your car, maybe you're at work, and you're cheering. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
And if it doesn't sound great, then
we know who to blame.
Yeah,
we know who
Branden
to blame.
has lied to all of us.
It's me, 100%.
He is gaslighting us to think that it's going to be great. I'm just kidding. No.
No, that's what I do.
I have one other thing I'll probably highlight. It's gaming adjacent, and I thought it's just funny because like they re-released this recently, and it just came in the mail, and it's the Legend of Zelda animated series. So excuse me, princess. But so apparently this DVD was really hard to find. And if you wanted to get it like secondhand on eBay or something like that, it was going to cost you way too much money for what it is. Like you don't want to spend that much money on this. But they recently it's like $12, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I have like a nostalgia for it, even though it's terrible. I did enjoy it as a kid.
Same. Yeah, same.
I remember, watching this a lot as a child, and even though it's like watching it as an adult, it's definitely got that cringe, but it's got the nostalgia there. So yeah. A little fun, random pickup.
Excellent,
Branden.
So yes, on that same trip, I picked up a couple of games. The first one I want to highlight is Drakengard 2. Ooh. Okay. Drakengard 2. This now completes my Drakengard collection. I think there were only 3, right? 1 and 2 on the PS2 and 3 on the PS3.
3 on the PS3, yeah. I
think
then
so. Nier is like
with
a spin-off.
The PS4 spine. That was weird.
Right, yeah, it had the blue spine.
Yeah.
It was one of the late PS3 games that had that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drakengard 2. I don't know if Yoko Taro was involved in this one. I think he had moved on, or maybe it was 3. He wasn't. I don't remember. I think there was 1 that he wasn't involved with. I want to say it was 2, or he was less involved. But still, the completionist in me, and I never see that game in the wild, so I saw it in the display, and I was like, okay, it's not crazy overpriced. Like wasn't like a great deal, but it was like what it goes for. So,
and I was saying,
I never see it. I want to get something. So I was
standing there as Palpatine, just being like, "Do it."
He's like, "Do it,
do it, do it,
young Skywalker." And young Skywalker did it. He got it.
He did.
And then the the other game I bought. I'm furious. By the way, I texted Emily the other morning. I was like, I just sent a picture, and I was like, I'm furious. So I picked up Etrian Odyssey Nexus. The long box on the 3DS, nearly complete. It's missing the pin. There's a Vivian pin.
It's a cute pin.
It's a cute little pin that I was like, it's fine. I'm trying to collect all the Etrian Odyssey games. It's missing the pin. Okay, fine. It's not a terrible
look
price.
Really nice next to your Radiant Historia.
All of my and like I have almost every other Etrian Odyssey game, so I'm very close to completing that. So I was like, of course I'm going to get it. 2 days later. 48 hours. Video Games Plus reprints this exact thing for the same price that I paid for it used and not in complete status.
They didn't reprint it. They just brought it out of their
They took it out of the warehouse or wherever,
wherever it was.
So they had some stock, and I was like,
PMP Games did the same thing. I think they did first, and then Video Games Plus kind of copied them. I don't know if anyone else is on Twitter and kind of watches the 2 Canadian stores how they try to market themselves. It's really funny.
It just felt very
react to each other.
It just felt very personal. I just felt personally attacked by that. Like, how did they know? First of all, but I'm convinced that they did. And they did that just to make me mad. And then Emily, you pointed out, it's like they sold out immediately, and I didn't see it, so I would have missed it anyway.
You would have missed out. I think you would have been even sadder. Like, I didn't get this time and that time.
And that time.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
what a
true.
chump. Missing out all around.
But you paid about the same price, you said, right?
I did.
Yeah, you
I
didn't
did. And it's
overpay,
just
so
it's
at
missing the
least,
pin.
You didn't overpay, yeah.
It's missing the pin.
And
It's fine.
the pin it's just a pin.
I can get the
What
pin
matters
for
in the cardboard usually for collectors.
I can get the pin for $30 on eBay if I wanted, but I don't. It's fine. I'll live without the pin.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So that was my treasures from that adventure. We had thought, and let me just throw this out here to the listeners. We had thought about like maybe filming ourselves doing the excursion.
Oh yeah.
And like possibly doing like bonus content or something. But I was like, A, does anybody care? Would anybody want to watch that? And B, can I get over the shyness of like trying to film in a public place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I could do B if A were true. So let me know. Let us know in the comments or send us an email, jrpgpursuit@gmail.com. Or you can also comment on Spotify. I forget to mention that. You can comment on Spotify. Let us know if that's something you would be interested in seeing, because we've talked about the memberships subscription thing coming soon. If that's something that you'd be interested in
selfishly
seeing.
want it to happen so I could live vicariously.
So you can live vicariously, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So we got one vote from Emily.
Got one vote.
But let us know. Let us know if you wouldn't mind. Anyway, on with the program. My pickups here actually kind of move us nicely into what we want to talk about today, and that is the age-old debate, handheld versus console. Okay, we've got the handheld on the 3DS here, Etrian Odyssey, the console, Drakengard 2, and I think we come from there are some varying histories here among just the three of us, and I imagine even more so out in the broader community.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just want to talk about kind of the pros and the cons of the different formats, and then maybe we can bring in like the PC, because that's a whole another can of worms, like that contains its own handheld versus quote unquote console debate. So why don't we start, Emily? Why don't you kick us off? Like, let's talk about handheld versus console.
Okay. You mentioned histories, so I might have the least similar history among the three of us, where I started off gaming on PC, and I moved into my first ever console, happened to be the Game Boy Color, so a handheld device, and that was my primary device for a long time. And I only had one home console that I played on when I was younger, and that was on the PS2. So I know a lot in the gaming space. There's a lot of nostalgia and fondness, especially for the home console games, I think, kind of over some of the other ways of playing games. And there's some points I don't really relate to, because I never had an N64, I never had a GameCube, or like an NES or any of those. And I do feel like I'm missing out a little bit, but I think there's a lot of, pros to being either a PC or a handheld gamer. I'll start with handhelds, and we can maybe get into PC debating a little bit later. But yeah, just transportation. I think that was like the best thing as a kid. I could take it anywhere. I went on so many car rides. My brother and I, just in the back seat, we'd be playing on our Game Boy Colors, and at night we kind of wait for the street lights to pass so we could kind of see what's on the screen. And so there's just so many great memories with handheld gaming for me that I really got back into it with the 3DS and the Switch years later, and slowly into the PS Vita and a little bit into like the PSP. And yeah, I just have such a fondness for handheld gaming, and I don't really see that ever going away. And how about you guys? You want to talk about your history before we get a little bit more into, I guess, this debate?
Yeah, for me, and I don't know if this is your experience, Dalla, probably having a somewhat more similar background to mine. Growing up with the Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo as like my primary consoles and the things I started with, for whatever reason, to me, the Game Boy and like the whole mobile side of gaming, it felt like video game light. You know what I mean? LITE, right? Like it felt, as a kid, it felt like, well, it has a lot of the same games, but they're not as good. as the games that I play on the consoles.
Yeah.
Like, it has a Final Fantasy. It has a bunch of Final Fantasy games, but they're like weird, and I don't care for them as much. It's got Castlevania games, but like they're not fun. They're not great. And stuff like that, right? Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I love the Turtles games on Nintendo, and then on the Game Boy, I was like, they're not amazing. And it wasn't until into adulthood for me that I started to appreciate handheld gaming as its own thing. And I think for a while, up until maybe the Game Boy Advance, even publisher or developers were making the handheld games a little simpler, a little more straightforward than they were on console. I'm sure some of it was like system capability, right?
So you could pick it up and go. Like,
yeah,
you
and
don't
so
have
it's
to, be on it for so long before you hit a save point.
It needs to be accessible to be able to pick up and put down. You don't necessarily want super long passwords like you would have on the Nintendo,
Yeah.
Jot down a 48 character password to save your game. So yeah, there was a lot of that. And then as you move on into the Game Boy Advance and onward, those limitations weren't there. I mean, it was probably good game design to make a game so that you could pick it up and put it down with ease. And like some of it was like the console themselves had like sleep mode or whatever. So that helped them a lot, I'm sure, a ton. But yeah, so for me, like I grew up with the console as my primary device, and I was kind of put off by the handheld for a long time. How did you view it all, Abdallah?
Yeah, I think somewhat similar. I mean, that way,
Yeah.
like, because I did grow up, like, I mean, playing the NES and systems for the most part, like, consoles. I did have a Game Boy and a Game Boy Pocket, and then a Game Boy Color later on. And I did enjoy the Game Boys, but I always thought of it as like, yeah, like it's just a dumbed down version of a lot of the games that I enjoyed on the NES or the Super Nintendo or things like that. So like,
yeah,
it was very fun. Their games are like, I love playing like the Wario games and the Mario games, and there were some games on there, like even like for the Game Boy Color, there was like a Resident Evil game that was surprisingly like good for being like on the Game Boy Color, that you wouldn't expect that to be.
Yeah. This was the era where when you had, multi-platforms, they were different games.
Yeah, like they're completely
entirely.
Yeah, and so like I did enjoy the handhelds, and like I mean that was when I got into like also Pokemon at the time. So I did enjoy them, but I was primarily like focused more on console gaming for the most part, and like the only time I actually felt the need to play like portables, like if we were going someplace as a kid, if I was like getting in the car or doing something, or during the Pokemon craze, like you play it because you wanted to like catch them all and like share it, like do like trades with your friends and things like that at school. And so like there was those aspects, and I think it wasn't until later, I think, as even like handheld gaming didn't really catch up to being like almost console like quality until like you probably got into the Switch, and even like the PS Vita, but like even then it was still kind of like made for like.
What do you mean by console quality?
I mean like console quality as in the sense of like you're getting like a full let's see how we put this, like you get
Sorry.
No.
See the flames growing in her
Oh my
eyes.
God, I felt it. I'm just like,
explain yourself, Abdallah.
Right, or Emily's gonna kill me. I say console quality as in the sense of like, as I got older and I got more into into RPGs and stuff like that, you wouldn't get these elaborate stories, elaborate worlds that you'd kind of go through and things like that. It was always kind of like a slightly like lesser version of it. And even if you look at, let's say with the PS Vita, like you have the Uncharted game for the PS 3 and 4, but then the Uncharted version on the PS Vita is it's a great game, but it is like you can tell it's made for handheld. It's like for more pick up and go. It's quick play. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier.
It was designed for the console.
Yeah, exactly.
the tactile kind of nature of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so like a lot of these handheld games are designed for the nature of the console that it's on. Like, you know, you have the DS, and then you have like the Game Boy
With
Color, the Game Boy
and the second
SP,
screen.
and things like that. Like it's usually kind of the nature of the system itself and what its limitations were. And even though like I think a lot of them
But with limitations breeds creativity, right?
100%. I'm not saying
So
anything.
it doesn't have to be a console game to be fun.
Exactly.
I think what you're saying. I think. Tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth. I think that you're not saying that console. You're not using console as like a descriptor of quality.
Yeah.
Necessarily. Like, oh, it's
Like
the games
scope.
finally got good when they were on the Switch or whatever. I think scope makes sense to me. Like I come at it from a slightly. I wouldn't say the Switch. I feel like for me, the first time I had an experience on a handheld that I felt was on par with a console similar game on a console was the PSP playing Silent Hill Origin.
Oh,
You know, like the graphics were maybe slightly below PlayStation 2 level, but still remarkable for the time.
When you're on that tiny screen, doesn't matter.
I mean, it
It's
doesn't
true, it
matter
doesn't
as much. But that playing Silent Hill Origin on that little device, I was like, okay, this feels fundamentally. It wasn't as good as like the classic Silent Hill games, sure, but none of them were at that point. They were all kind of sliding downhill.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily indicative of the platform. It's just more like it was capable of that full, like, quote unquote console experience, but it still had the trappings and the portability and the ease of use of a handheld game.
Yeah.
And
Also, one of our favorite games, right? Was on the PSP.
True. Trails.
It's true. Trails
started
was-
its life
yes.
on. Do we know? Did it start on the PSP or did it start on PC and then get ported to the PSP?
I
I've
can
not
answer
been
that. And the US, though, it started on
right.
PSP.
Yeah,
For sure in the US it was PSP.
So I'll
I
say.
can't remember about Japan. I don't remember.
I know that
I'm not
Falcom
sure.
has
I know
always been a
it's-
big PC developer, so
Yeah, it might have been kind of.
It could have been
tandem.
at a similar time, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the timeline is there.
yeah.
Yeah, and even like I would say, even for the PSP did a lot. Okay, like that system was incredible. Like I mean, if you play like let's say Crisis Core is one of the first. Like I never thought
yeah.
that I would tear up.
I know.
Like while playing, like because it was that emotional. Like it was so well done. Oh, it killed me.
Yeah.
Tear
I only
up,
played it on the
you're-
PS5, but it was
Tear up. You're
So
you're
good.
a tougher dude than me because I was. You can ask my
Bawling.
wife. I'm sure she remembers.
Bawling.
I was ugly crying at the end of that game.
It was so
that
sad.
ending, man.
I went
love
into
it.
I went into the kitchen. I remember when I was done playing it, and she was in there. I don't know what she was doing. She looks at me. She's like, "What happened?" Like she thought somebody died, and I was like, "Somebody did.
Well, someone did die.
Somebody did.
Someone died.
I knew it was gonna happen, but it still got me."
Yeah.
So I was a wreck. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're getting experiences that even. I mean, honestly, Crisis Core as an example.
Yeah.
That's almost an outlier because it's like I don't think I had an experience like that on a console up to that point. Like certainly since
Yeah.
then I have had similar emotional experiences, but like at the time that was like, whoa, like
Living,
crazy.
Yeah, because it was so
Crazy.
theatrical. Like it really played your emotions and like how you and like just playing the especially. I don't want to get into like spoilers and things like that, so we won't get
Sure,
into
yeah,
that.
well,
But like the ending sequence really gets you like feeling every moment of that, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it did such a good job. I was just amazed by like
And it's so cinematic too for on such a small screen.
exactly
What
like,
they were able to convey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the amazing thing that I've seen, like, you know, as handhelds like evolved, the ability for them to do that, and like it just changed your perception on handheld games.
I think there's so many great storytelling too, and other handheld games like 999 on the DS.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And how it brought, the like innovative, second screen and with your stylus and how you interact with that game. Like that's not something you could replicate. Well, they have, I guess, on the PS4 with the remakes, but
Sure.
it's the same experience. It's not replicated.
It's not. Yeah. Well,
On there.
that's interesting too because it's not just that like okay, even on the DS, right? Like you've got the unique form factor and the unique interface. But I feel like even beyond just the interface, there was so much experimentation and creativity in the handheld space. Maybe it was a lower barrier to entry. Like, you didn't need as much money to recoup an investment or something, but like you get a game like Hotel Dusk.
I was going to bring that up. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On the DS, like that blew my mind. And like, you would never have seen a game, even if you take the interface elements out of it, take the fact that you hold it sideways like a book, take that all out of it. You wouldn't have seen a game like that on a console.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like this like gritty noir, hand drawn, sketchy looking,
cool game.
like such a cool style. And you know, the form factor of the handheld device made it palatable to like take those kinds of risks. So
yeah, and I think it's paid off in dividends. There's so many genres, you know, on multiple platforms nowadays that I think you could safely say that handheld, I think, contributed to that scene.
Yeah, I think so. Like, and now that they've all kind of merged, right?
Yes.
We've got the merging of the handheld and the console.
Yeah.
You know, I think that developers are taking the lessons learned, like, you know, from that whole time, and like we benefit from it today. So
yeah,
it's very cool.
I think that was like the positive aspect of like handhelds growing up, is that like it would take, let's say, like the Mario or the Wario games, that Wario wouldn't be a thing if there wasn't like a handheld to put it on, because it was like they were allowed to play around with like mechanics and create things that weren't like normal to like what the console was going to have, because like they had a little bit more freedom in handheld, I think, in the world, because there was
Also,
less scrutiny.
Yeah, and then the price point, like,
Exactly.
you know, to have that barrier to entry was kind of diminished a bit.
Yeah.
And helped open people to new experiences in that way.
I think the DS, like you're saying, like the DS really, like, God, it just changed the game, I think, when it came down to like creativity, to have fun with it, like, you know, getting the Professor Layton games and all of these games.
Dogs,
yeah, and
all those.
there was just so many games on the DS that like were just different and like a fun experience.
They weren't thought as weird, you know?
No.
Like, I think they were pretty, like, generally accepted.
Well,
Yeah.
I would push on that and say I think they were viewed as weird, but the fact that they were weird was not bad. Like, they were good weird. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like
true.
You got Elite
Accessible
Beat
weird.
Agents. Elite Beat Agents was the weirdest game.
It's the most like Nintendo console kind of game.
Right. But it's like
cool,
right? Like, it's really cool. So, yeah, I love it. Now, I'm curious, Emily, because like Dalla and I, coming from the similar background of like kind of viewing handheld in the early days as like secondary. It's like you play your games mostly on your console. If you're going to go somewhere, you play your Game Boy.
Yeah.
What was your experience? And I know you started with PC, so maybe this isn't perfect as a parallel, but like, what was your experience when you moved from, say, the Game Boy Color to like the PS2? Like, how did your experience with the handhelds change how you viewed that? Or did it?
I think it did a little bit, because I think when we had the PS2, I had a Game Boy Advance at the time, and then I think my brother had the Nintendo DS, and we were always kind of like sharing consoles in a way, or, you know, trading off who gets to play on the TV, because we just had one TV set up for both TV viewing, movie viewing, and game playing.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think as a kid, I was always kind of going after the new things that were accessible, you know, like the new consoles, thinking like, why would I spend time, you know, playing on outdated or an older story or something like that. So I didn't think too much of like a retro sort of thought process of, oh, I want to get this, even though it's a little bit older. I did it for a little bit. Like, I did get some like Game Boy games when I had the Game Boy Color, because they just sounded fun. There weren't too many, because again, at that time we weren't really, I guess, I don't want to say allowed, but like we had more of restrictions of how much media we could consume or like, you know, buy, like, and we had to like, you know, sell off our games if we wanted new stuff. So we had to kind of think strategically between my brother and I, what to do, because we had, you know, different tastes in games too. So there was part of that. So there was a little bit of a compromises had to be made. I'll just say lightly, but
hiding a whole bunch of conflict and trauma from childhood there.
Yeah, well,
I think that's normal of siblings. No,
it is. Yeah,
it's 100%. Yeah, I have 4 siblings, so
oh yeah,
there's no lack of
there you go.
lack of trouble.
Yep. And because my brother and we had similar hobbies, I think maybe that helped breed that a little bit more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what was great about the handheld games was my brother and I could play at the same time. Like, we didn't usually have duplicates of the games because we wanted to, expand our discography of different experiences.
Yeah.
So there wasn't too much fighting of like who gets to play which game, but would have some sort of rotation going on, or ways we had like, the cable connector where we could like trade Pokemon or, do things together in that regard. But yeah, when the PS2 came around, I was mostly focused on the PS2. But then when I wasn't really actively, seeking out new games for that, I went to PC afterwards. So yeah, I don't want to say like I picked up a console and then abandoned the old ones, because like when I would go on road trips, I would bring the Game Boy Advance or something with me. I just did that fewer times when I was like a teenager compared to when I was much younger. But yeah, interesting question. And then I think in high school too, like late high school, I did get a little bit nostalgic for Game Boy stuff. So I would play a little bit of like Pokemon Yellow and Silver again. And that's when I was when I went into undergrad, I was diving a little bit into the emulation stuff on my computer. Okay. And I think I played through some of the Pokemon games I never got to. And then I attempted Chrono Trigger, but I got stuck at one part because the keyboard was not, I think, I was like the chasing the rat scene, whatever the scene that was. For some reason, I couldn't get past that on this emulator I was doing on my PC. But yeah, it's kind of interesting thinking back. But for some reason, I just kind of equated them as equal just at the time I was experiencing them.
Okay.
So I never really thought of handhelds as lesser in that way, because I always just thought handheld games were fun. Right. And offered interesting experiences that I couldn't really replicate anywhere else.
That's a good point, actually. Like, if you think about it as a kid, like looking back at it, I can say like, yeah, like it was probably the lesser like experience, between handheld and console. But like as a kid, you're just like, I just want to have fun. Like
just having a good time.
I'm home right now.
I don't think it's necessarily lesser.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying.
I think the quality.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying like lesser.
Just to reiterate this, it's not lesser. Like,
I don't think you're saying objectively. You're just saying you viewed it as not.
Like as a kid, you're like, all right, like there's like
not as full encompassing or as stretched to the limits as maybe something you would view on a bigger screen.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of was that same way. Like I viewed it as a secondary platform. It was not where I primarily did my gaming, and I couldn't game in the car. I hear about people playing the Game Boy in the car and those memories. It's like I would be so sick.
I did that all the time.
So sick. I'd have been throwing up if I tried to do that.
I would have been so bored if I couldn't do that. So I think I kind of built up an immunity over time after practicing so much, because my parents, they moved out to California right before I was born, so they wanted to visit everywhere in the state because it was so new to them, because they're from the East Coast.
That's a big state to go visit everything. State. Yeah.
Yes. And I saw most of it, or I've seen most of it.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, you've talked a little bit about PC in your background. For me, we had a PC in our house when I was growing up, and it was it was also kind of secondary to me, but like it was beloved in its own kind of unique way. It's like I didn't even classify the PC as a video game machine really, but like it had some of my all-time favorite experiences in games were on PC. So Myst, Riven. I was the biggest Myst head. I still love it, But like, when Riven came out, I remember just the anticipation. I don't think I've anticipated anything as much as I anticipated that game. I was so excited. Like I had the books, the novels. Yeah. I think at that point 2 of them had come out, because the 3rd book takes place after Riven, so the 3rd one hadn't come out yet. But I had the first 2 books, and I'd read them and reread them, and like I was ready. I was like vibrating for that game. And, like that was where I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time, was on PC, because I didn't have a PlayStation yet. So it has a special place in my heart for like some very specific things, but for the most part, I just didn't view it as a gaming device. What about you, Dalla? Like, did you play a lot of PC?
A ton of PC, actually.
Yeah.
Growing up, my dad was like a computer engineer, and he did a lot of stuff with the computers and stuff like that as growing up. And so like we had multiple, like a couple of computers, or at least a couple of computers in the house at a time sometimes. And we would do like LAN parties, like between me, him, and my brother. We would play like Half-Life, the original one, and or Counter-Strike back in the day. And so like I played a lot of first person games, but I also like was really big on adventure games. So I played a lot of like the Sam and Max games, like Return to, or what's it called, Monkey Island games. A lot of Sierra, a lot of like
I love
Lucas
those,
Arts, like just kind of across the board there. I played a lot of like really random games that
I have a collection of PC physical boxes.
I did at one point. I do not have them anymore. The only big box I have now is a very random game called Sanity Icons Artifact. And fun fact, it is the main character is voiced by Ice-T. And it's an isometric like third person, like isometric, like RPG-esque type game, like Western style RPG. So
was that pre Law and Order SVU?
Was it? Maybe I don't remember.
It must have been.
Or that was that Ice-T or Ice
come
Cube? Am I going to get destroyed by the hip hop crowd for not knowing the difference?
Wait, did I even say the right person?
You said Ice-T.
Yes, it is Ice-T. Okay,
it's Ice-T is in Ice-T is in SVU, right?
SVU,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I'm not wrong.
Don't worry.
I'm right.
You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
All right. I don't watch the show, so I'm just
But
he's iconic in that role. But yeah,
literally iconic. And so I remember, because I didn't have I had that game. I got it because my friend had it, and I remember going to his place and we played it, and I was just like obsessed because I was like, first off, it was a fun game because like you had like connect like psychic powers, and you'd like create skills, and you're solving puzzles, and you're like leveling them up and stuff like that. So it was like a really fun story and things like that. But then it was just like what made it funnier is just like the literal like just the lines voiced by Ice-T the whole time. So like it just like cuts this tension of the game. So like the whole game is very serious, and then you have like the most
Ice-T
like hilarious lines that he's throwing down. And
is this available on Steam? I want to look it up.
No, it's see like it's terrible because like. It's a lost media because it's never been digitized. You can find it on eBay for pretty cheap. I think you can get it around $30, but it only runs
on certain
on a certain system. And so like I ended up picking up like a few months ago an old like it was a Pentium 3 I think system or Pentium 4 that can still run it. But it is it's like one of those games like it's sad because like it's gonna be lost to unless they bring it somebody, but like I don't know the licensing rights for using Ice-T's voice.
I think Ice-T's trying to bury it. He's putting the pressure on. It's like nope, you cannot release that game.
Nope, they don't. He doesn't want anyone to know he did it.
No one should know.
It's not like on the Black Seas or something, High Seas.
Or
on GOG. Is it on GOG even?
Yeah, I'm so like you can rip it. So like there is like if you want to.
If it's cheap, I'm not surprised it hasn't been ripped.
It has been ripped, but to play it, you have to jump through some hoops. So there's like.
Oh, I see.
That's the problem. It's like there's no GOG hasn't created like an easy way for it to it's not on GOG, it's not on Steam. So like there's no easy way to play it. You actually have to go through like modding it and or creating like a virtual machine on your computer. It's a lot of work to play the game, and I don't know if it's worth
it.
It's a great game, and for me, it's nostalgic, so it was worth it for me when I did it. Yeah. But I don't know for the normal person if it's worth the headache to try to build all that out, unless you already have some sort of build.
Even the hardcore Ice-T fan like Emily, it may not be.
I saw it. She really looked like she wanted.
I'm a fan.
She lit up. Ice-T.
I will.
I'll
figure out a way for you to play it, Emily.
I feel a little silly because I mentioned like Myst and Riven and Final Fantasy VII. I didn't mention the Sierra or LucasArts games. I was crazy obsessed with those. I don't know how I didn't think of them. Your Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Yeah. Like it was as good or better than like some of the Indiana Jones movies.
100%. I love those games.
Incredible.
I feel like you guys had the premium experience on PC. I got like the cheap.
All the drugstore.
Oh, don't worry. I still
like,
did
they're
that.
Great. Don't get me wrong. And then I played a bunch of like internet games, like the Flash games.
Yeah.
100%, yes.
Like I was all over that. The Cartoon Network.
Was it like E-Bombs World that they have games, or am I thinking of
There was Newfound
what
do you call? I can't think
Newgrounds.
of the name. Newgrounds, yes.
Yes.
So I played a lot of Newgrounds. I did a lot of Flash animation, like games.
E-Bombs might have just
did
been
this.
Flash animation.
I did
I
so
dabbled
much
in
of those.
Neopets and RuneScape, and we haven't talked about this. All the MMO stuff. I feel like that opened my eyes to what gaming could be, and so interactive, and just basically being transported into a fantasy novel. I thought that was so cool when I was playing like WoW for a bit.
We should probably do an episode at some point on MMOs.
We have to.
I don't know how much experience
Though I
you
don't want
have,
it to tempt
Abdallah.
me to get back into them because they're addicting.
I have a lot of experience back from when I was like probably in college days and previous to that.
I think it could still be an interesting conversation. I have very limited experience, but enough where like I've dipped my toes in here and there. So I think it might be an interesting conversation.
I think it'd be fun.
I was really
if you guys
big
want to
on
hear
it.
about MMOs, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know if this is an interesting topic. I remember the days of like all the free ones that used to come out like randomly, like in the early years of MMOs. There were some weird ones out there. But they were fun. There were some fun ones. But yes, computer. There was there was a lot on the computer. It was a different experience, and like I kind of like computer, like kind of what Emily was talking about, like emulators and stuff like that. That got me into playing a lot of games that I didn't own as a kid, or didn't have access. So like that's how I first played Terranigma. Like I came across it. I don't know what I was doing. Like I don't know how I came across it as a kid, but like I found it. I was like I downloaded it, started playing. I was like, oh, what's this? And then I just kept playing it, and then I just like beat it, and I was like, all right. And it became a game that I would every year play. Like it was like religiously, like once a year I would play Terranigma, and for like through like late middle school, high school, like early college. And I haven't played it in years now, but
I didn't play it until I was in my 30s, but I was pretty blown away by it. Like I remember thinking, if I had played this when I was a teenager, I think this would have just been the game. Like I would think, and it still is, like it's still great, but I think as a kid, having not experienced as many other games as I have now, I think it would have just been like, whoa, how did they do this? You know?
I know, because it plays
Incredible.
so fluidly. Like the action, like the action battles are just like so well done.
Quintet like learned all the lessons and
like
then forgot them all for the game they did after that, which was that we tried to play it that one time.
Grand Stream Saga.
Grand Stream Saga. Yeah, that was not great.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
I don't think that it was the whole Quintet. It was a different. I mean, it was technically some of the people from Quintet, but I don't think it was Quintet.
Yeah, it was the
they were done
remnants
by that point, but
of Quintet at that point.
But I'm glad you mentioned the emulation scene, because I feel like we should probably loop in JRPGs a little bit into the conversation. And I think
Why
that
not?
like, yeah, you know,
Sure, I guess
it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
For me, like, and I think maybe you did kind of allude to this or say this earlier, Dalla, is like the preference for console for me was because of the JRPGs that I was into. And the ones that I played on the handheld systems at the time back then just were not. And this might be blasphemous to people that love the Saga series. Like I didn't care for Final Fantasy Legend. I didn't get it. You know,
just don't say lesser.
She'll kill me. No, I don't know.
Just
like
those words.
Yeah,
I'm
choose your words
Emily's,
carefully.
Like,
on the hit list.
On the hit list for Emily this episode.
Yeah.
I was going to say hit list. I was going to say something else.
I was going to say it too. But I was like, you know what? I'll leave it.
We're keeping it clean. But you all know. You're grown-ups.
Yeah.
Unless you're kids, in which case, hey kid. But yeah, I just could not get into the role-playing games on handheld. I think until what was the first I'm trying to think of the first full handheld RPG that I experienced.
Like,
did you play Zelda games? It's not an RPG. But
I did. I mean, so if you count Zelda, like Link's Awakening, sure, I enjoyed that.
But I would say
or the Oracle games.
I never got to play the Oracle games.
Those are great. I think Zelda did really well on the handheld.
It did, yeah.
But like straight up, like if you're saying
top down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you do like a JRPG, like excluding Pokemon,
sure.
I think it wasn't until like the GBA. I think the GBA really kind of held its own with like bringing like
Fire Emblem?
experiences, like Fire Emblem. You had Golden Sun.
Golden Sun.
They brought Final Fantasy 6, and I think there was
a bunch of Final Fantasies.
1 and 2
6.
were on a
Tactics,
cartridge.
all those.
Tactics. They even brought like what? Children, was it? Not Children of Mana. Secret of Mana. Sword of Mana. I forgot which
Sword
one
of
it
Mana.
was. Yeah, Sword of Mana. And so there was a lot. I think the GBA is really where it picked up. It became more like SNES styled.
Yes.
I think it did. I still missed it though. Like I didn't get into it until I was an adult.
Yeah.
They brought a lot of games back onto the GBA. Like that's the first time I played A Link to the Past.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's
GBA.
true. Yeah, that's true.
So a lot of great games.
I loved it on the GBA because that was one of my favorite games on the SNES too. So like to be able to play that handheld was incredible.
And arguably a better experience.
Probably.
I mean, it has extra content, doesn't it?
It does. Has the 4 swords.
Oh yeah, it had 4 swords. Yeah, that was great. I love that.
Yeah.
So this is like my favorite game. So that's why I'm very partial to handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since I was able to experience it there.
Yeah, I mean, I played that Zelda game on the Super Nintendo when I was 8, 7, 8, and like it's hard to you think back to that the nostalgia glasses of that game, but like it's one of the few that I'm like it holds up.
It holds up.
I can sit down and play that game
today,
and it's like, yep, it's still great, still amazing.
Yeah, I got the expensive analog pocket
just to play it.
Just
have that nice and glorious lit up screen.
Oh man, yeah, that's what I've played it. I played it on the analog pocket too, and man, like, have you played like Link Between Worlds, Emily?
Have I played A Link Between Worlds? Yes.
That's a silly question.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm really like.
It's okay.
Emily's coming at me today.
It's all right.
It's my turn. I'm okay with it. It's all right.
You're tearing the podcast apart, Dalla.
Oh dang it! What am I doing? Okay. Anyways, so like that Link Between Worlds, I think like, man, that was like one of my favorites since Link to the Past.
Yeah. That's what made me pick up the 3DS and then looked back since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the GBA really kind of set the stage for full like JRPG experiences again, because that was the first time you can kind of get like a full, like it wasn't maybe as like
a more of a hearty game, like well-rounded. That's true. Like because RPGs, have been notoriously like long kind of gaming session sort of games. So I think they finally knew how to translate that into a handheld device where it wouldn't seem too like small in comparison.
Right. It was a 32-bit system, I believe, but I feel like the aesthetic that it had for at least JRPGs in particular was 16-bit. And so, even though the rest of the console gaming sphere had moved on to 32-bit and beyond, like there was still a lot of life in that 16-bit style, and that was carried on just by the fact that the Game Boy Advance played games that were like that, like it's kind of like they were running in parallel to each other, the handheld JRPG space and console. So like, you were getting games like Final Fantasy X that were like a big leap forward in terms of like presentation and whatnot. And on the Game Boy Advance, you were still getting essentially 16-bit style games. Yeah. But like the psychological difference between those two wasn't as great. It didn't feel as much of a struggle. At least I don't think it would have been as much of a struggle for me to jump back and forth between them. But like I said, I did kind of miss the boat on the Game Boy Advance until I was an adult. So, Yeah.
Yeah. And then people at the time, they could play their GBA games on the GameCube too. And
That's
so
true.
I think a lot of people utilize that feature a lot. And we're able to enjoy those on a bigger screen, but they're still quality games.
Yeah, completely.
And also a lot of home consoles, they had their virtual machines where you get to, play some of those traditionally handheld games, but if you want to do it on the big screen, you're now able to.
I'm trying to think of like modern consoles then, yeah.
But like even like the Wii U, they had, a lot of the Pokemons and
That's
stuff like that.
Yeah, they brought the GBA games there.
That even had some DS games, didn't it?
Yeah, right now the Switch has plenty, and so does like the Sony catalog that they've been doing with PS Plus. They've been bringing on
PSP
a lot
games.
of handheld games. Like they did Jeanne d'Arc.
Right.
Yep.
I think is now
Jeanne d'Arc,
on there, and a few other ones.
Yeah.
And now you can
Seymour.
stream the PlayStation Plus games onto the portal, I want to say.
Yes,
they just
you
updated
can.
it.
Yeah, they just
So you
updated
can
it.
have that true handheld experience
It's
with those handheld games.
I'm curious how that works. Have you tested that out?
I have not. I don't subscribe to the level where I get access to the game catalog. But
yeah.
so I can't say how the fidelity is. My internet is very good, so I feel like it would be good for me, but your mileage will vary depending on internet connectivity.
Because this one will be straight for your internet. Like it's not
It's
like
straight. It's straight streaming. Yeah, you are not
straight
storing
streaming.
it anywhere.
But it's not like you're battling like who gets to play your console, right? So
Right.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
the utility's maybe not as high for you compared to some other people who are, having to.
Oh yeah, like
Need that.
if somebody, I don't need to use the portal to like be able to play. I just get to use it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Well, sure. I think that's the portal in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, because like it's especially for like people who play JRPGs, I think it's like a perfect little niche like tool to have because
Yeah.
I mean you get like the input lag and things like that you'd have to deal with like action based games, so like it becomes
That's true, and some
less
platformers.
fun with those games because of just you can't really play like a shooter. You can't play like you can play them, but you're just not gonna like.
Same competitive.
I will tell you, like from my experience of, like if you are hardwired, if your PlayStation is hardwired into your modem or into your home network rather, and you are near to the Wi-Fi spot in your house with your portal, I can typically play more action-oriented games without any noticeable input lag. When I didn't have my PlayStation 5 hardwired into the network, it was not
great.
it was not good. So it does your connectivity makes a big difference.
I'm tempted. It looks like they're going to do a rerun of the PS1 variant, the anniversary model for the.
Are they?
portal.
And it's only 250. It's not. It doesn't cost more, does it?
No, I think it's the same price.
I believe it's the same price, if not maybe $10 more.
I want to get it. I can't justify
It looks
that.
really nice. I haven't.
It's
I've
really
been
hard
eyeing
to.
the controllers, but I'm like, I could get the portal instead.
You could.
It's true.
And
I
you
could.
should.
It's on. I've thought about it too.
It's an exclusive to I think the PlayStation Store, so
Okay.
I had to hop on it when it's live.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well because, like, I mean, it would be nice to play portably sometimes.
The issue is that, like, I don't have a big space. Like, I don't need to have a portable handheld system to play my PlayStation games. It's like here.
It's definitely a luxury that it's like you have to justify it, and
It's hard to justify, honestly.
it can be
in
a
my
challenge
circumstance.
depending on your situation.
Yeah.
Like, did I need it? No, but I don't regret having it. Like, it's very good.
Yeah. It's
But
like I always
anyway,
think
like.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Finish
go
your
ahead.
thought. No, because I was
have
going to
no
steer us
thoughts,
right into the
Branden.
skid. Okay.
Plus, whenever
All right.
I say Emily will probably kill me.
You are walking a thin line, buddy. Yeah. So I was just going to probably. I figured we could wrap it up. We're at about time. Any final thoughts on the
I guess we
classic
didn't really answer
handheld?
much, like, currently, right? What the handheld versus game console versus PC is, because he just talked about the past.
Right. Well,
I spent a long time talking about the past.
We did spend a whole hour talking about the past. I think the reason that I don't even think about it is because it, like you kind of said earlier, it's all kind of merged now.
It has.
Like you have the Switch, which is the handheld console. There's not, like, Sony doesn't have a current one. Microsoft is alluding to the idea that they might one day, but like who knows if they even make hardware 5 years from now. Like they seem to be moving in a more software as a service kind of direction for Xbox anyway. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see. Is the Switch the handheld system the next Switch, or what? Like, does that hybrid thing continue? I think it has to at this point. Like you can't put that genie back in the bottle. If the next Nintendo console wasn't a hybrid, I think people would riot probably.
They'd be disappointed, and also because it's supposed to be compatible with old Switch games.
Right.
It'd be weird.
Yeah.
It'd be
Not to.
I think it's going to be a battle between like Steam Deck and Switch, where like,
yes,
I mean, like I would say less of a battle, because if you like, you're not going to get Nintendo experiences on the Steam Deck. Like that's just a thing. Like if you want Nintendo experiences, you're going to get a Nintendo system.
Mm-hmm.
Like
there are ways around it, but they're not on par with the same experience.
No, and Nintendo will sue you personally if you try to experience them that way. So keep that in mind. They are the most litigious company.
A little bit walking dangerously.
You'll end up on
live
live
on the edge. Yes.
So yeah, no, I think between the Steam Deck and I think like there's a bunch of other like handhelds that are coming out for like Windows handhelds and things like that. But like I feel like they're just more niche structure. I think I can't keep up with them.
We have a cell phone, right? It's the ultimate handheld device, and there's so many games you can play on here that you can play on PC.
Yeah,
it's true. I have a weird psychological hang up where
me too.
When I got the Portal, everybody was like criticizing me and being not everybody, a couple people were like, "Why don't you just play on your phone? Get a backbone? What are they called? Backbone and play on your phone." I was like, that the idea of that for some reason makes me angry. I can't explain it, but I
was hesitant at first.
It makes me I get angry when they're like, play it on your phone. I'm like, no, that's not what a phone is for. It's not for a video game. It's for text and Twitter.
I feel like you have to dip into it. And the thing is, you have like one of the most advanced phones, right?
I do.
So I don't think there'll be any issues running some of the games. And I think, what is it? Square Enix, they just announced a mobile game for Final Fantasy, right?
Did they?
Or it's coming to mobile.
Oh, was it
like 4 or something?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
I missed that.
You guys missed that, but you missed that announcement. But yeah, I think there's a lot more experiences coming to phones nowadays, or like iPad or something, because that's just where the general audience is. Like a lot of people aren't buying, consoles anymore because either they have a PC or they have a phone. They don't see why they need to, shell out money for those third-party games that will go on Steam anyway. Like, if they wanted the Nintendo games, sure, but a lot of the other ones, like, they don't see the utility of
they're not buying every new generation of console. Like I think there's a ton of people, like maybe a plurality of consumers that own Switches right now are not going to get the Switch 2 because they're going to say we've got a Switch at home. And they're not going to upgrade every generation like us, like hardcore folks that are into it. Like we're there day one.
Look at the Wii versus the Wii U.
Right.
Like it's not the perfect upgrade system, but a lot of people didn't upgrade.
Didn't bother or like didn't know that it was different, or
I think
it was a lot of there's a lot of reasons, and we have to just keep that in mind. The monumental success of the Switch is probably not going to be replicated anytime soon.
I mean, and Nintendo has a hard time with sequels.
They do.
Or they always have a hard time with like in between. So like, the Wii did really a great job. The Wii U struggled, where like the Nintendo did really well. Super Nintendo did really well. 64 kind of struggled. GameCube struggled as well. Like despite the love for those systems, like financially they didn't make a ton of money, or have a ton of games on there. And so like Nintendo has like a weird track record with like system.
You could look a little bit into historical things, but I do think sometimes with how, technology moves, looking backwards might not be, help predict the future.
Yeah. I think
it'll be interesting what happens with Nintendo.
Yeah. I think it's made them weary on this release, and that's why they're taking a little bit longer. I think they want to like...
Also, the current economic climate, it's hard to release a new system in that.
That too.
Just in general.
And they probably want to have like a good... Like they want to release this with a chunk of games that like will pull everybody in right away. So they're
like,
probably
you have to buy this, or else you'll miss out.
Exactly. Right. And so like,
and
that's
they only have the one pillar now. They used to have handheld stuff to fall back on for those years where the consoles weren't doing great. They are all in on this hybrid thing. So I think
they've also dabbled with mobile stuff.
Right. They did put out some. What was that company called that they worked with?
No idea, but they've worked with one.
Yeah. to varying levels of success. I think there was some interesting stuff that
Fire
came out
Emblem
of it.
Heroes is still going strong from what I could tell.
Is
Yeah.
it? I
that
remember
I
played it,
played
like,
it a
when
little
it first
bit.
came out.
Yeah, and
I think they still generate plenty of money.
I
Yeah.
mean, the
I see new stuff all the time.
oh, good on
And
'em.
I don't play.
That's good.
see with like kind of the same way with like Branden with mobile games, because I always think of it as like, oh, it's gonna eat my battery, and I don't want my battery to die, and then I have to worry about charging it, like because it's also like when you're out and about.
But if you're at home, does that matter?
When you're at home, it's less so. But like I feel like I don't know, my ADHD hits harder when I'm looking at my phone screen than it does if I'm looking at a designated gaming console, because like that's the only thing I can do on that. Like if I have like a handheld, like let's say if I had the Portal, like all I can do is play a game on there. But if I have my phone out, I'm gonna be like, well, let me check something here. Next thing I know, I'm down a rabbit hole and I'm like, doom scrolling
Interesting.
something.
That's
and so
true.
Like,
yeah,
it kind of just like it. I get
I
too
haven't experienced
distracted.
that if it's taking up the entire screen and I don't see notifications coming on my phone.
I guess if
or
you can
anything like
silence
that.
your notifications
I
and
think
resist
some
the
games
urge,
suppress it on purpose so
they?
that you just stay in the game.
like
I think
I don't know if
Conquest
I don't know
does
if Apple lets
I don't
you. Do you know? Does
I don't
Apple let
I don't have an Apple or
I'm
a
I don't think
suppressed.
Apple lets you unless you put on like.
unless you put it on
yeah,
Is there
silent?
like a
you put it
quiet
on.
mode or something?
Yeah, there's
Yeah, you
like
can
a,
put it on
like
quiet
a
mode.
do not disturb or whatever.
Okay, so maybe that's where we're having a different experience because I'm on Android.
Yeah, that could be.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, I'm open to for sure having a mobile experience. I just greatly prefer a controller
Also,
over
you have
playing
other
on a touch
experiences.
screen.
You don't need it.
I've got so
honestly.
many.
I know.
I love Honkai Star Rail's great,
just
but like I play it on the
trying to-
Portal.
Say it is there. People do.
It
do
is. It is, and it is a viable place to play a fair number of really good
Yes.
games that are just happen
And I
to
think
also
they're trying
be
to
on
open
mobile.
it up more. Honestly.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, if not everybody's going to buy a console, and not everybody, obviously, handhelds are kind of a thing of the past, like dedicated handhelds. You know,
Sadly, though, I don't know. The portable PCs, handhelds.
yeah,
I
that's
think it's still a market for that.
oh
It's
for
just,
sure, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
There's just not as big of a market. Like there's a certain type of person who would buy that. I think this day and age,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which we've seen with Steam sales. But we could. I don't think we actually have the numbers for the Steam Deck sales, but from what we could kind of tell,
the culture
there's a certain
has
clientele.
suggested that it's
And I think like the hybrid is what's like that we've hit the perfect situation, because like that's something that I've always wanted to have, like growing up, is like, I just want to play my game on a big screen, but then I want to walk away and then maybe be able to play again while I'm out and have that save carry over, or just like be able to play the same game anywhere else. So like you're
the
not having
dream come
different
true.
experiences everywhere. You just want to have that one wholesome experience across everything.
I don't think we could have asked for a better way to wrap this up than that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dalla, for that. Thank you for
I
touching our hearts.
wanted to make Emily a little happy by the
Yeah,
end of it.
just to end it off on a positive note.
So that way
You're
we'll
off
get
my
her
list,
for
don't
we'll
worry.
get her for the next episode.
Yeah. We're all good. Everything's forgiven. All right. So, well, thank you for listening, everybody. Dalla, why don't you tell us where you're at online?
Yeah, you can find me on the Twitter X world and the Bluesky world under Dalla998.
All right. And Emily?
And you can find me over at Orbalology here on YouTube or other platforms.
Yeah.
That's social media be.
I further segmented mine instead of
Oh, no.
I'm moving in the wrong direction a little bit, but
You are.
it was for a good reason. It's for a good reason. So on X and Instagram, I'm _ just the gems. Okay. On YouTube, I'm just the gems. Like that's my YouTube channel. On Bluesky, I'm justthegems.net. And the reason I did
you're
that,
doing-
I'm doing
.com.
the URL thing. The reason I'm doing that is just as kind of an identity like verification sort of thing. Like
I
nobody's
consider doing that.
yeah, nobody's trying
You
to
might have
steal
to
my
walk me through how you
identity.
did that.
I'll show you how to do it. But yeah, nobody is trying to steal my identity. I don't think. Please don't. If you're watching this right or listening to this right now,
Why are you
please don't
pointing
steal
at
my identity. But just in the event that ever became a thing that's necessary, I thought I'm just going to grab this because it's a cheap URL, you know. So I got it. So Bluesky, justthegems.net is my handle. But just the gems. If you
.com.
search for me on the platforms, you'll probably find me, even if you can't keep all these things in your head. Anyway, thank you once again for listening to our fun little podcast about various things related to the world of JRPGs.
Let us know if you like handheld, console,
What
or
is
PC
your
gaming the
preference?
best.
Yes.
What is your preference? Put it in the
If it's
comments.
changed from your childhood to now.
What's your favorite game on said handheld?
Yeah, let us know.
All the questions.
All of them.
Hit
Just-
us with your
come at us.
comments. We like we've said before, we do read all the comments. We're not quite at the level of getting back to them that we want to be, but there's a lot going. We're going to do our best.
We always read them, though.
We always read them at the very least. So we really appreciate you. And I guess with that, we can just say goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.